Thank you very much. Did you hear what the cow said to the farmer on a cold winter morning? Thanks for the warm hand. Anyway, it's going to get better, so don't panic on me. Start small. Nice to see all of you. How many of you have never seen me before? This is your first time? Oh, wow, most of you, okay. I keep thinking for sure I'm more famous than that, but, you know, that is the truth. I'm delighted to be here. Been looking forward to it for a long time. And it's nice to be back. You know, I was here not too long ago. It's nice to be invited back. It says something when you're invited back. Doesn't say everything, but it says something. Maybe it says, let's give him one more chance, right? See if he can get it right this time. But I'm delighted to have all of you here. We're going to spend the day together. I feel two major responsibilities, and I'm sure you can guess what those are. Number one is to make sure you get your money's worth, right? When you shell out your cash, especially these days, you want to make sure you get full value for the money you spent. And I know the tab for the seminar was not that much, pretty modest fee to get in. Most of you, your tips for the week, right? So it wasn't that much, but I want you to be able to say when you walk out of here today, it was worth my money. But my biggest responsibility is to make sure you get your time's worth. And the reason I say that is because time is more valuable than money. In fact, you might start your notes with that. Time is more valuable than money. You can get more money, but unfortunately, you can't get more time. If somebody asks you to spend your money, that's pretty easy, right? We live in America. We're wealthy. So the money's not the problem. But what if somebody asks you to spend a day, right? You got to think that over carefully. And I know you did. I wouldn't waste one of my days, not for anybody, not for anything. Once I understood how valuable they were, I don't waste any. But to make an investment like today of your money and your time, I appreciate that. Today's going to be costly for me. It's going to cost me one of my days to be here, right? And some money, of course. But, you know, I don't need the money. I take the money, but I don't need the money. But guess what I do need? The time. So I'm here not to just joke with you. I'm here not to just tell some funny stories and give a performance and walk away. I'm here to give you some value, and I want to make it worth your time. I'm going to invest a day. You're going to invest a day. Let's get the most out of it and see what we can walk away with today. Anyway, for you that have not seen me before, just very briefly, let me just tell you my story. I grew up in Idaho, farm country, southwest corner of Idaho. In fact, my father still lives on the old homestead where I grew up. He'll be 89 his next birthday, still hasn't retired. I'm proud of my dad. He's never been ill. He's really something. I'm trying to get him to retire this year, 88. I'm telling my father, what a good year to retire when you're 88. And he says, hey, talk to me in 10 years, right? I might be ready. But anyway, I went to high school. I graduated. I went to college 1 year. Halfway through my second year of college, I decided I was smart enough, so I quit. One of my major mistakes. I should have stayed in school. But I thought, heck, you know, I'm smart enough to get a job. That's what life's all about, right? Get a job, pay your bills, work hard, stay out of trouble, keep your fingers crossed, hope for the best. And I figured I was at least prepared to do that. So I quit college and went to work. A little while later, got married, got my little family going, and I'm out there doing what I thought was the best I could. But about age 25, I'm starting to struggle. I've purchased a little more than I can conveniently pay for on time. And the creditors are starting to call saying, hey, you told us the check was in the mail. What's the deal? And I'm getting embarrassed by that. I'm also embarrassed, big mouth me, with all the fancy promises I made to get married. I'm way behind on those promises. And I'm getting discouraged, wondering what to do.
Morning, everyone. How you guys feeling today?
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, guys. Morning, guys.
Morning. Love Jim Rohn. I love Jim Rohn.
Oh, that's the man. Yeah, if you guys ever want some life-changing content, Jim Rohn's speech, especially that one, Best Life Ever, if you guys type that into YouTube, it's about 4 hours and change. it's one of the most impactful just seminars I've ever heard in my life. He's the guy who Tony Robbins went to work for when Tony Robbins was brand new in the game. So that says a lot. You know, this guy's probably very underrated motivational speaker, but I think he's a little maybe more than that. I think the guy really comes with so much packed into his content from the storytelling aspect, which is phenomenal the way this guy tells a story, but also with the things he says. I mean, just for the few minutes we had him on, you know, he said a lot of things that he dropped a lot of golden nuggets there, like time is more valuable than money, you know, something like that. I mean, I don't know when was the last time you really thought about that. I really just gave it some real deep thought. Like, okay, your time is more valuable than money. What does that say? And what do I translate that into? Am I doing too little with my time? Am I doing too much where I'm not getting back enough value for my time? Like, you know, he said he'd rather waste money than waste a day of his time or a day of his life. You know, and sometimes we find ourselves maybe not wasting our time, but not doing the highest and best use of our time. Right. So good stuff from Jim. But this obviously this meeting today is not about Jim, but if you guys want to look into him, I'm sure you guys would really appreciate that. So any good news from over the weekend?
I had a really, really exciting experience.
Oh, go for it. I love stories.
And it kind of ties into what we were talking about last week. I think it was last week about the wetlands.
Yeah.
So I actually showed a house that my client was interested. It's actually just a frame, and he was interested in fixing it up and you know, staying there for a little bit and then reselling it. Saying, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bridgewater. So the ARV price is like 700,000. The house is on the market for 350. And you know, just to fix it, you probably need, I don't know, after seeing it yesterday, it's gonna be a lot of money. So it was very interesting to, I don't know if it's because it rained or it has been raining, or I'm not sure. Maybe you guys can help me out in here. And Brent, that he's familiar with those type of properties, because right now my client is doing the numbers to see if he's even interested after we saw it.
Yeah.
Everywhere we walked, it was like it
Yeah.
was like wet. And we even walked to the house next door to where their driveway was, and I walked right along the driveway, and it looked like it was recently paved. So I'm not sure if they have had to do this multiple times, but even right along the driveway was like
High water
like
table,
my
huh?
wife and my daughter were wearing Converse. They couldn't walk around the property because their shoes would have gotten wet.
Yeah.
And in the basement there was like that much water. I don't know. So yeah, it was very interesting. I'm not sure, as I said, if that's how it is, or because there was properties developed in there, but then in the paperwork that the listing agent sent me, she also said that the house has no drainage and that you would have to create a system that usually they make them to last 1 or 2 years. But because of the amount of water, because of the wetlands, they will have to build something that is good for 25 years.
Yeah. I think Chris, I saw him nodding his head. Chris, you know about these areas and you know about this type of situation?
You're muted.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know too much about the Bridgewater area, but I know personally I always try to stay away from wetlands area. I mean, that's even when I have an idea that the property could be close to a wetland area, I'll just go to FEMA.com,
Yep.
yeah, FEMA.com, where you can type in the address and then it'll show you if the property is inside of a flood map or not. And sometimes even close to it, I'm hesitant in taking my investors to those areas. Not to say that there hasn't been investors that have been successful with doing it, but you know, personally, I try to stay away from it.
Yeah. So Chris, he actually said something that was exactly what I was gonna mention to you, Ivani, is let's jump onto FEMA.gov and check out the property, see what kind of a flood rating it may have or what areas around it may have flood areas. because wetlands and floodplains are actually two different things. They could overlap, and sometimes they can have nothing to do with each other, because my house that I own in Warren, which is the next town over from Bridgewater, it has wetlands on it, but it's not a flood zone. It's the mountains, so you don't get too many flood areas in there. But I have wetlands. Part of my property is wetlands, and I like it because it creates a buffer between my house and the neighbor behind me. So there's like a big area that's wooded, has a lot of vegetation. So in one aspect, it's good. But I know exactly what you're referring to when you got that squishy, like type of high water table feel in the ground. And what you're getting there is you're just getting a saturation of water. So yeah, there's ways to fix it or remedy it. But unless you're getting like the deal of a lifetime, is it really worth doing that much grading? Or grading means like you're elevating the plot or the land, so it could water could run off into a different direction. But you gotta be very careful with that, because you can't make your water go into your neighbor's yard. You can only make it go into like a stream, or you can make it go into like a sewer, but you can't make it go into the neighbor on the right or the neighbor on the left. So it's a very complicated situation. The other way of doing it is creating a drainage system like the realtor was telling you, which then would allow the water to just percolate somewhere else and just
How
go.
about planting trees? I'm sorry, just
Planting.
my bad. Planting trees, they absorb water. Like the manglades, you plant a lot of trees and they start absorbing and it starts sucking up the water. Can that help?
So they
Yeah.
also create shade, which kind of hinders that too. So
Yeah, it's almost double-edged sword. Brent lived in Bridgewater, and he had a ton of trees on his property, and a couple of them even came down a few times. Brent, you want to share your experience with that? I didn't even know you're on the call.
yeah, I didn't have wetlands. I did have a brook in the back. We did lose some trees. One fell in the house. But depending on the part of Bridgewater, where is it in Bridgewater?
This is 700 Foothill Road.
What road?
Foothill.
Foothill.
Yeah, Foothill is very, very low lands, and it's been that way for years. It's never going to change with grading. The whole mountain runs right into there. So I would take Lewis's counsel that it backs right up into very low land for a lot of square footage.
You would have to, yeah. I'm looking at it here, and it seems like it probably doesn't even have a basement. This house doesn't have a basement, does it?
It does have a basement. It's just half of it is water. The water level down there was pretty high. We couldn't even get in.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Jared,
It's developed because there's neighbors in the front, there's neighbors on the one side and up the hill on the other side. So people do it.
Mhm. Yeah, the problem with having a house with a basement with a high water table is you're never going to win that constant battle. And God forbid you get a storm, it's just there is no sub pump that's going to be able to really last that long, or put up with that much water always constantly coming in.
or
So-
work at that speed.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So, I mean, I think the best thing for this individual, or this person, if they really like it, they like the land, would be, if they're really serious about it, would be to see how much it would cost them to build a structure that doesn't have a basement, that's above grade and slightly elevated.
So when you say that original, that those bones that are there right now, that would be that would have to go. 'Cause the house is gutted. Right now it's just the beams.
Uh-huh.
So I'm guessing if we want to do what you're saying, we will have to get rid of that too.
Yeah, I mean, you could get a quote for raising it, but I don't know if it's worth it.
That's a lot of work though. Sounds like.
How do you even raise an original, like something like that? How do you raise the house that's already there?
Mhm.
I lived I lived on the other side of that mountain. And I know I think that house has been empty for about 4 years, right?
Yeah, it's been empty for a while.
Yeah.
They had to gut it because they said that it was so bad. It wasn't even safe for people to go there. I'm guessing because of the mold, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a major problem with that house because that area is absolutely prime real estate all around it. So for it to sit there 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
I don't think I would, I don't think I would do too much with it.
Only if you could steal it.
Yeah, well, there you
Tear
go.
it down and build a new one on higher pilots.
Yeah,
You know, Chris has got a good point. The, just the lot in there is probably worth $250,000. So if you could get the land and drain it, you got a really good lot, but you do have a lot of road traffic sound because,
Yes,
you're very, very close to, 224, right?
yeah, it's very loud. I
No,
mean,
no,
there's no
220.
insulation right now, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do the properties of wetlands always feel like that? Or is
yes.
it because this one doesn't have the drainage? It was like the squishy everywhere.
Yeah. You know, part of it, they just they built 2 hotels just down on the east side of, I'm drawing a blank on that road. I lived there for years and I can't even think of the road, but they built 2 hotels, so that took woods away. So that created more, you know, parking lot, and the trees that we're absorbing are now the water's going somewhere else. So I think you're in, major trouble there.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the FEMA map just to get an idea of how high the water table might be there. Let's see. Strange. It doesn't look like it's part of a flood area, and that's odd because the water table is really high there. But you know, you walking on the property yourself, you feel that, you know, that's not something that you can make up. So I would say that if this guy was really serious about this property, he should talk to a an engineer or topography. Yeah, because he's going to need to do some either grading, or he's going to need to figure out how to get the water to percolate away from the house. You may even have to create like a elevation for the property and build on top of it.
Create a what? I'm sorry, it's somebody has
Yeah.
to.
It's not on. I don't know why it's showing.
Yeah, Ivania, I know of a builder in the area who lives very near there, and he's built about 40 homes in that area. So maybe I can, you know, you and I can talk, and I can have him give you his take on it.
Yeah, definitely, because as I said, the house next door, it looks like it's not that old. I'm not sure if they have to constantly renovate around the area, but their driveway looks pretty new. But it's right there, as I'm saying, it was squishy right along the driveway as well. So I'm wondering what they did in that property so that you know, they can get the water out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so let's talk after the meeting, and I will we can reach out to this builder and see what his take on it is.
That sounds
Thank you,
expensive.
John.
Yeah, welcome.
That'd be expensive for the seller.
How much would it cost? I was running this with another friend of mine, and she told me a new drainage system would be like $30,000. Is that around the price? But then maybe not for this kind of wetland. I mean, I would guess this is a different system than a regular one, correct?
Yeah, I'm not. What is 30,000?
The drainage system.
It depends.
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know how that works.
Doesn't it go by square footage?
Louis, is it different on a regular home than something like this? Because
What's
this is
drainage?
big land. Yeah. How would you even move the water away from the house?
You could do two things.
property.
You can create a retention basin, which is kind of a fancy way of saying we're going to create a little man-made lake on your property, and the dirt that you pull away from that area, you put it where the house is going to go. So you elevate the property. That's one way to do it. That they do that a lot in Florida. The other thing is you can create a drainage system that gets buried underground. And what it does is basically acts like a big storage tank for the water to kind of creep into and then it flows into a different part of the property that maybe is a little bit more low lying. So it allows for the water to kind of find it's because water always likes to flow down with gravity. So it drains into PVC pipe that's around the areas that you're going to use. And then it runs off into a big holding tank. And then from there, it permeates into the ground in a different spot. So maybe that's the system that they're talking about.
A
So-
French drainage? I'm sorry.
It's kind of like a French drain for the outside of the yard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
kind
had
of.
one done in my previous home, and it ran up to like around $7,000 just for the inside of the house. So I think it goes by the square footage.
Yeah, that's for an interior. They also have French drains for the exterior of the house, but this house looks like it should be rebuilt anyway. So
Mhm.
you guys should rebuild this on a slab or maybe even an elevation. In case there's ever, problem with water in the future. It doesn't look like there is because it's not a flood area. So at least building on a slab would be a better idea. But you're gonna always have that water problem unless you do something with the elevation of the lot, or you put in a expensive drainage system. It could cost like 30 to 50 grand because that's a big property.
Yeah, it's a big lot.
Yeah, for sure.
As I said, I walked the whole thing and the whole thing's squishy.
No, I know exactly. what
Even
you
the parts that would look like they were dry, I was like, ooh, no, and it was like
Did-
kind of too.
You
Yeah.
was walking on sponges.
Yeah.
In the summer, it probably won't be as bad, but right now, since it's winter, you have a lot of rain or you have a snow melt, you're gonna have that higher water table. But if that's something that's feasibly done, you could get them a good deal.
Yeah, it is the ARV in that area, it's pretty high.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice area. Good. Yeah, that's
Thank
an
you so much
interesting.
for all the information. There's a lot of interest. I'm gonna go watch some videos on outdoor French drains.
All right, cool. Anyone else want to share any good stories or anything you guys want to bring up for today's meeting?
Hi Louis.
Hey, what's up, Sarah?
Good, how are you?
Doing great.
The open house long lines are back.
Oh, they're back, huh? Even with the
Yeah.
higher interest rates?
Yes.
People love
I
to-
feel like the buyers that feel like they missed that wave
Mhm.
when the interest rates just started to peak up a little bit to the 5s.
Mhm.
And they thought it will go back to being 2.5 and 3. Now they kind of realizing like, oh my goodness, we missed out.
Yeah.
So now they don't care. They're out. We had 80 family show up at the open house yesterday. We did not even have time to drink water.
Wow. And keep in mind, guys, we're right now, we're starting the busy season in the colder states. Right. So once March hits, that's March Madness for us, right? Everyone's getting ready to look for houses and get themselves situated for when school lets out so they can move, so between now and August is like crunch time. So make your money now, guys, because I don't know how much longer this madness is going to last.
I'm not trying to sound negative, but the whole East Brunswick had only 3 houses for sale.
That's insane, right? Because I guess people don't want to sell because they think to themselves, why am I going to sell my house? I got a low interest rate. I have to go buy something with a higher interest rate, right? Is that the concept behind it?
Yes, 100%. Every time we speak to anyone, they say, we don't need a bigger backyard. We're okay. We have 3%. We're sitting on 3%.
That's going to create a problem. That's going to create a big problem for people. I mean, it's just for the market. I mean,
I'm sorry. It makes sense for the seller though.
it makes sense for the seller because they're getting more money for their home, right?
Right.
But not everyone is motivated by upfront money. There's a study called that they did for delayed gratification. Are you guys familiar with the term delayed gratification?
No, I'm
Right.
not.
So there was this experiment with I think it was like first graders, like little children. They did an experiment where it says a scientist did an experiment with some kids where they gave them a treat. They gave them marshmallows, I think it was. And maybe if you guys know this experiment a little bit better details than I do, feel free to chime in. The scientist said, here are two marshmallows. You can have one marshmallow now, or if you wait half an hour, you can have 2 marshmallows. So most of the kids would just grab the marshmallow and they didn't want to wait for the 2 marshmallows. But some kids would wait for the the 30 minutes to get the 2 marshmallows. And it's probably, I'm probably butchering the example, the experiment, but the concept of it is that most people go for the instant gratification, and there's a good chunk of people who actually wait for the delayed gratification. So what that means is a lot of people will go and sell their house now for that instant cash because they maybe that entices them more. But there's also another segment of the population that doesn't think that way, and they wait for other things that might benefit them more, such as lower interest rates. So, you know, that's what's keeping this market kind of like weird, right? Keeping it really crazy, because if we had average rates, we would probably get more inventory on the market, but we don't. We have like pretty high rates right now comparatively to what we've been seeing the last, 5 years or so. So what do you guys think? What do you think this is going to lead to in the future, like long term? Do you think this is going to create a bubble again, or is this just going to fix itself and find a?
I honestly don't know what to think anymore. Now I'm just reading this morning that Wall Street started to purchase real estate, and by 2030 they will own 40% of the real estate. Have you heard anything about this, Louis?
So BlackRock's buying real estate again? Is that?
Wall Street, I don't know.
When they say Wall Street, it's usually BlackRock because they own the world. BlackRock is a big public, is a big fund. They have their hand in pretty much everything and anything you could think of. So when all the madness was going around with homes being sold to Wall Street, it was BlackRock that was buying all these properties. So when things like that are happening, it's just a sign that there is really no better place to put your money but into real estate. So what I would say is, if you find, and this is talking outside of your normal real estate business you guys conduct all the time, but for yourselves, if you guys find something that cash flows, makes money, or something that has some, even in these markets, see how you can possibly buy that yourself. Because I feel like real estate is just one of the safest things out there. Very illiquid, which means it's hard for you to sell it if you need the money out. But long term, if you can afford to, guys, get yourself some real estate, no matter what market we're in, because in the long run, it'll definitely pay off. And you can see it because Wall Street doesn't buy stuff to lose money. They pay a lot of money for analysts, and what you hear on the news, what they tell you on, Fox or CNBC or any one of those, that's not the truth. They don't, they're not going to share with you the truth. That, the truth is what they do. So don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. So if Sarah's saying that, there's Wall Street's buying again and there's proof of that, then that just shows you that they still have confidence in the market can go much higher stuff.
What they're doing, one of my lenders was saying they're creating what it's called, and it's coming because the banks are, Wall Street, not the first ones that are buying properties. I think it was Chase or Bank of America. They're buying single family homes to rent them because the rents are so high now. So they're creating what is called the renter nation.
Wow.
So a lot of people, because of the interest being so high, they cannot buy, they're stuck with renting, and they want to drive that market up. Another thing that you guys can do, I did a video on it and I kind of dumbed it down on Instagram if you guys want to share it with your clients. And I have been getting a lot of good feedback on it. People are like, oh, okay, now I understand. Because sometimes as realtors, we forget that people don't understand. We went to school for this and we do it for a living. So sometimes we have to talk to our clients like they're 5. And I'm one of those type of people. Even on these meetings, I ask a lot of questions. So you can always refinance, right? The house, even if the market comes down a little bit, real estate tends to gain equity during time. And I always tell them, you marry the house, but you date the rate. You can always refinance.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it.
Can I answer your question that you first asked, Lois? What do we do?
Yeah, what is this? What's going to happen?
This is one time I wish Genius was on the call.
Mhm.
Divorce, probate. That's where we're going to find out inventory.
Yeah.
If sellers are scared to sell because they're in a low interest rate already, then we have to, go to the ones that are not motivated by the interest rates to sell. And that's going to be probate and divorce, and also, catching those pre-foreclosures.
Mhm.
So if you're not already REO certified or know how to get into that, then now's a good time to start educating yourself so that we can, as you say, survive for the rest of the year. If, you know, the regular people are not selling just because.
Yeah, absolutely. Divorce is one heck of a motivator. The house I'm sitting in right now is compliments to a divorce. You know, it just, in a market where there's nothing loosening up, two people wanting to get away from each other is one huge motivator. So yeah, if you can find yourself a way to get access to those people or get those leads by creating relationships with attorneys, or, you know, however else that information is compiled. But probate is very interesting, because probate, you can do a lot of I would say legwork, because that data for a lot of reason is not readily available. You know, you got to go into counties and look that information up yourself, and the fresher the better. There is something that I've come across. It's called pre-probate leads. Have you guys ever heard of pre-probate? No, there's a company that always sponsors the local RIA that I go to here in Southwest Florida. I'll see if I can find the information. I'll put it in the chat. So for whatever reason, they always talk about these pre-probate leads that I guess it's before. I don't know how probate works, because I'm not, maybe Genius would have been able to answer this better. I'm not sure what difference between a regular probate and pre-probate. Maybe someone here on this call knows the difference, but I guess it's the process before it gets, maybe it's like a pre-foreclosure, the process on the way to being probate. Somehow it's recorded. I don't know. But from what I understand, those leads are pretty good, because you're usually the first ones to them. But it's also very awkward too, because they're like, hey, my husband just died, or my dad just died. You know, I don't want to get these calls right now. So let me see if I can find that info. I'll share with you guys if you guys ever want to look into that. But
I wonder where they get them. You think they get these leads from like hospice?
I don't know,
People
John,
that
can
are
you
there.
answer that, John? John, I know John deals with a lot of people in hospice.
No, John's not here. He's in.
Yeah,
Harlem.
I'm right here. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
they're not Genius.
John.
Yes, with the one thing I know with hospice patients is that they if they are in financial constraints, especially the families that have been left behind, not everybody is able to sustain or able to afford the maintenance of the home. Let's say, you know, a spouse, you know, passes away, and the other one is left behind, and it's next to impossible for them to maintain the property. So they either downsize or, you know, or I mean, they have to sell sooner or later. But if they're not in financial constraints, then, you know, they're going to be just like any one of us, where they're just waiting, you know, in the house. But if they're in financial constraints, it doesn't matter what the market is doing. If they have to sell, they have to sell. So that's what I've seen.
Okay. All right. Well, I put the website in the chat for you guys if you're interested in looking at the probate and pre-probate things. I'll share with you the screen right now so you guys can see what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I think Belinda is trying to say something.
Go for it, Belinda.
Yeah, I know when John was on the call before, we all learned that he spends his Mondays at the courthouse Monday morning. But I know here in my area, all that stuff is available online. Probates is available online. And it does take a little bit of legwork, but once someone is deceased, all of their records that they had to deal with the attorney is all there online. I mean, name, address, telephone number to contact the next relative that's responsible for the property. So I think it's really just a matter of where you're at in your area. If it's available online, you don't have to go to the courthouse to look it up. And then if you want to carry that particular finesse in making those phone calls to the family members. But like we have been dealing with lately in the past couple of weeks, we're problem solvers.
Yep.
And if you can help them solve a problem, then making a call is not that awkward if you know that you can help them solve a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's all in your delivery, right? Everything is delivery. Because even if somebody's relative didn't die, and you have their own delivery, they're still gonna hang up on you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's when role playing really comes in hand when you're dealing with a sensitive matter or situation. Same goes with divorces, right? Or probates. If somebody's family member just died, I mean, what are you gonna do? Call and say, hey, you know, I got an investor who wants to buy your house, and like they're like, what? Like my dad just died. And you know, like, do you start off with saying, hey, my condolences, or do you skip that part and not tread lightly? Like, you know, what approach would anyone take here?
So what do you say when somebody gets divorced?
Yeah,
Yay, good job.
Congratulations.
Good job. When is the party?
yeah. Can I get an invitation to the divorce party?
I get the divorce cake.
You're a winner.
But no, as someone that has been divorced and know what a trying time it is, how you would start it off is, first of all, you would introduce yourself and let them know how you know of the information that you have. Because, you know, you're not a creep, but, you know, you're privy to information of when divorces come about. And I genuinely want to know, how are you doing at this time? And then you let them know that you're calling to offer assistance if needed, whether they use you or not. That's it.
Okay.
Sometimes they just want to hear.
So pre-probate cost.
If I have found something on cold calling and even role play, when we role play, it's about us creating and building a relationship. And I have clients now, even the clients that I took to see this property yesterday, I've been talking to them for a year, and I went on a listing appointment with them a year and a half ago. And they were they're having kids that are leaving to college, so they were starting to look, and now they are actually considering relocating. And a lot of the times too, at the beginning of my career, I never really saw listings as a relocation, and we usually leave that other deal on the table. I make sure that now when I call, I don't even introduce myself as a listing agent, and introduce myself as a relocation agent. A lot of people just want to relocate, and they haven't even thought about that next step.
I think people have to be careful how to approach in these situations, though, because even if two people don't want to be with each other, it's still a really hard process to deal with. And they got to be careful with the words. You know, people hurt.
Hey, Louis, how you doing down in Florida with inventory?
You know what? There's stuff that's popping up that I'm constantly making offers on, but a lot of people are still they're not willing to let things go. It's a very weird market right now. Like post Hurricane Ian, I would have thought that there'd be a lot more people just willing to just part with their properties, and they're not. I mean, let me give you guys a prime example of something. I'm gonna give you guys there's a couple questions, but I'll jump to those in a sec. I'm gonna give you guys an example of what I'm seeing here. If I can find a property. Okay. So this property right here, 3489 Sea Grape Avenue in Naples. Okay. Good part of town, you know, not great, but next in line to really gentrify and really look really nice. You know, I would say, because it's proximity to downtown and the beaches. Once my computer decides to load, let me see if I can get it up. Okay. All right. So little old 1950s, 1960s type ranch, right? Nothing special. Good part of town, like I said before. The RVM, which, you know, usually tells you what it thinks it's worth, but it's a pretty high confidence score, 4 out of 5 stars. It's worth about 359. It's listed for 399. Now I saw this house the other day, and I gave comments on the feedback to the agent stating that the home was overpriced in my point, but it was very interesting, and it would be worth probably more just land value than it would home value, because this home did get affected by Hurricane Ian. It had water in the house, so they cut the sheetrock out about 4 feet high. Let me show you guys what that looks like inside of a house. Let me see if I can. Yeah, you see the walls have been cut out about 4 feet high. That's what the insurance company makes them do. Okay, so in my opinion, I said, this is gonna be a total reno, but when I got there, it was more like a total demo. Like basically you would have to knock this house down and build something new because it's close to a canal, which means that it's first in line to flood if we do get water again. So long story short, I said, you know what, this thing's not worth 399,000. It's not even worth 359,000. In my opinion, the most this house should probably be worth is somewhere in the 200s, right? In my opinion. So the agent starts messaging me and telling me, would you consider that making an offer on the house? I said, yeah, but like, what are you thinking? Because I'm thinking this is only worth land value. And she's like, well, I just sold another one around the block from there for 315. And I said, yeah, but that's a bigger lot, and it wasn't as affected by the flood. So she's like, yeah, but they won't entertain anything less than that. You'd have to be somewhere higher than 315 because it's a better part of town. And let me just show you what she means. So I'm going to click over here to the map. So this house is right here. It's right here where it says 400K, this little black dot. The one she sold for 315 is right here. So it's literally like the next neighborhood over, right? This house right here. So I'm thinking to myself, well, this home needs to be torn down and needs to be rebuilt. So the house across the street, they did exactly that. They tore it down and he built this house. Okay, this house.
Oh, it's pretty.
Yeah,
So
really
pretty.
nice house. It's not super huge. It's 1,800 square feet. It's a nice home, good amenities, 2-car garage, pool in the back. But in order to do something like this, to build in Florida, it's not like building in Jersey where you can build a stick frame with wood. Here you have to build with all cinder block. So in order to do that, it's about $250 a square foot to build. So running numbers on something like this is going to cost you about 400 grand to build this house. Now you can't pay 400 and spend another 400 to build and then call that a good investment, because this house sold for 899. So you're going to invest 800,000 to make 100,000. That's not a really good return on your money. God forbid the market goes down a little bit or material costs go up, you're done. Your investment is pretty much done. So
Louis, is it longer to build in Florida than Jersey?
well, you got inspections just like anywhere else, but the thing is supply chain. Like, is the block going to be on back order? Is the roofing going to be on back order? Like we had supply chain issues here for a little while. Now they're a little bit more eased up. But what do you think these guys paid? The point I'm trying to make here is, what do you think these guys paid for this property to build this home that sold for $899? What do you think they paid for the land? And they bought this land in 2021, 2 years ago, basically, like a year and a half ago.
225.
225,
250.
250,
300 at most, 300 at most.
300 the most. Okay. All right, here we go. So the deed shows that they paid $90,000.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
90,000. And right now, a year and a half later, after the hurricane, after they've already gotten their insurance check, they're asking for 400 grand for basically the same thing. Basically the lot across the street. And you know what? And you still got to knock the house down, which is going to be more cost. So Chris, to answer your question, the market right now is so risky that you really have to be careful. You're almost better off not buying than buying, because to buy something for 400, to basically speculate that hopefully the market will go up so you can make a profit, that's not a good business model. I mean, why would you ever do that? Even if you broke even, you just spent a year of your life building someone else a home to break even. So if in a normal market, you would have wanted to buy that lot for 90 to 150,000, like that's safe. But to pay 300,000 to 400,000 for a lot, to just be hopeful that the market continues to go up and someone is, it's like playing hot potato in real life. And if you get caught with that potato, it's not you're out of the game, it's you're bankrupt, So I'm being very selective, Chris, to answer your question, and I'm being very careful. I'm waiting for pain, because when you get max pain, that's when you get the great deals. So even if I got to continue buying a little bit outside of my market, which I hate, because I have a house right now that I'm renovating and I just got done renovating all the interior in Cape Coral, which is about an hour from me. And I'm finding deals there through sheriff sales and stuff like that, but I'd rather continue driving an hour, hour and a half for investments until I get good opportunities closer. So you take them where you can get them. Are you seeing that same type of environment up there, Chris, where the market really doesn't really make sense? You gotta unmute, bud. Let me unmute you.
I was gonna say, yeah, that, you know, both on a retail level, you know, with just dealing with regular buyers, and also from trying to find short-term investment opportunities. Everybody's fighting for the same stuff, and I've got some really good buyers right now, you know, $500,000 buyers. And for example, Roxbury, you know, here in Morris County, New Jersey, I'll do a search for a 4-bedroom colonial, or just in general. I pull up all the houses in Roxbury. There's like 12 houses in Roxbury, and Roxbury is a massive town. Randolph, I do a search for Randolph, and 13 houses come up for sale in Randolph. Randolph is a massive town. I live in Randolph. Dover, you know, I'm used to seeing about 50 homes in Dover, and Dover's a small little community, a small town. There's 6 houses for sale in Dover, and
Great.
3 of them are in attorney review.
That's nuts.
So, you know, it's insane. And this one property just came on the market on Thursday. It's a 3-bedroom ranch, and the listing agent, you know, he's a guy that's been in the business for 20 years like me. He says, Chris, let me guess, you're calling on such and such property. I says, yep. He says, man, I'm about to turn my phone off. We're at 70 scheduled showings so far. 70. You know, it's like, it's insane. And then the weekend prior, a property in Dover came up for sale, a ranch, which I would say is in one of the nicer areas of of Dover. It's on the border of Randolph, a 4-bedroom ranch, maybe 1,800 square feet. Very nice, open floor concept. Nice. I mean, I would say in a normal market, it's a $400,000 house, 450 tops.
Yeah.
It was listed for $499, so I felt it was overpriced, and it sold for $600,000 cash in Dover.
What? That's nuts.
And I think there must have been somewhere around like probably over 25, almost 30 offers on the property.
My goodness.
So, you know, I sit back and I'm just like, this is
Unsustainable.
insane. You know, I have no explanation for it. It's frustrating for me as a real estate agent, you know, having buyers and going out, because it feels like a rat race. I've been trying to focus my attention on, prospecting for sellers, making phone calls, I'm door knocking, I'm dropping, brochures and flyers off. But it's not yielding as many listing appointments as my efforts would in the past. And then as far as like from the investment standpoint, this past Thursday, there might have been 3 good deals at the sheriff's office, and they went for prices at like as if you were going to live in them, right? And like you just said, it's like hot potato. I think that was a perfect analogy. How can you buy an investment property in Morris County for $300,000 based on speculation and based on the demand that there's no inventory? So I hope to get more. I don't know. It's insane. So typically it's like the same people at Morris County that are bidding on property. It's myself, it's Christian Vega, and this other guy, Vito. And it was us 3 bidding on these houses. And then, I respectfully bowed out. And these guys went at it, but they were going at it out of ego. And, I wasn't playing with my money. I don't have money to just buy something out of spite for someone else. Because, Louis, I'm sure you know that there's guys out there that have so much money that they'll just buy something knowing they're not going to make any money just so that the other guy doesn't get it.
Yeah. The running joke at sheriff sales when somebody overpays for a house is you go up to them and you congratulate them like, oh, when you moving in?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I got to use that one. So, it's strange times, needless to say. And I think that someone was saying, homeowners don't want to sell because, yeah, they could sell high, but then they got to buy high and their rates are higher when right now they might have refinanced in these past 3 years and they're like 3.74%. So
Yeah.
Plus, I think that the economy, people are just kind of nervous what's going to happen. So definitely, in my 20 years, I have never experienced anything like this. It's insane.
Louis, if this is if this is too narrow for the gallery, I can call you back offline, but can you speak into the new legislation for any building over 3 stories tall in Florida? And what's gonna have to be the inspection and the HOA?
Any
What-
building over 3 stories?
Pardon me?
So you're saying the new legislation for any building over 3 stories, you were saying?
That's what I'm hearing, but I don't know that much about it, but if I understand it correctly, any building over 3 stories is gonna have to be assessed, have x-rays taken of the foundation of the structure, and they're assessing like each home buyer's as much as $50,000 in an apartment complex building, high rise.
Oh, pre-existing, so something that's pre-existing older. Oh, okay, well, that's it. I mean, you know what? I think that would be a good thing because after that unfortunate event happened in Miami with the collapse of that building, I think it's only the right thing to do is check some of these things out. I mean, hopefully it's just a one-time expense and not
I
going year
agree. Yeah, I agree. Look what happened to Turkey.
Yeah, and Turkey as well. I mean, Turkey was just a disaster. What happened there?
Yeah.
All the contractors and the engineers are in jail now.
Mm-hmm.
A
Yeah.
lot of, I've seen on the news that a lot of the properties in Florida got six syndrome building or something like that. Like the multi-units. Where there's a lot of floods and not from the water outside, but a lot of the pipes are old and they're rusty. 6 syndrome.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. How can that even be remediated?
If you've got rust,
Yeah, like the syndrome, like everything just doesn't work. You might as well tear it down because you remember that in the news where this building just collapsed in Florida.
in Miami, yeah.
Yeah, in Miami. Mhm.
So if you've got rust in the rebar inside the concrete, there's really no way to fix that unless because you got to vacate the building because you're gonna have to cut into all of the concrete floors and put in new rebar. So it's not something that's like, oh, let me go in there and just refloor or retile or something. Like it's a big you're better off vacating the entire building and then just redoing all the floors in one shot. Maybe your building's empty for 6 months or a year, but that's the only way to do that. Either that or you're just going to have to demo the building and rebuild, but that's not an easy fix. I mean, I would hate to be the owner of that building.
And with that being said, the maintenance, the HOA people there took all the money and never did anything to fix the building.
Oh, that's a common Miami thing. I'm not surprised. If anyone here is from Miami, don't take offense, but the culture in Miami is very, very different than anything you ever want to be associated with.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible. I had a property in Miami and I had a tenant there and my management company would keep my rent and never send me the rent. That's how bad they were.
Oh, wow.
This is horrible. I'm not trying to speak for everyone there, but there's a good portion of people there who are not looking to do the right thing. Yeah, speaking on the topic we were just on, I want to share this tweet with you guys. So I follow this business analyst, Guinevere here, and she put this up, and I thought this was very fascinating, especially for what we were talking about today. It says that over half of the U.S. mortgages were originated in 2020 or later, including refinances. Think anyone with a 3% mortgage locked in is going to sell anytime soon? That's crazy, right? So the reason why we're not seeing a lot of inventory is because there's a stalemate, like exactly what we've been talking about today. It's amazing that you guys said this today because there's actually data to prove that half the inventory right now is basically at a deadlock. And if you are holding on to a house with a 3% interest rate, you're instantly becoming a landlord. You're not going to be thinking, oh, let me sell this thing. If anything, you're taking up more real estate because now you're like, well, I got something that the mortgage is only $1,800 a month, and people are paying $2,800 a month for rent. I'm just gonna write this thing. So now people who would never have considered becoming landlords before are becoming landlords almost by default, almost out of necessity. And that's why I think we're having such a crunch, because normally most people are one house and done. I don't want to fix pipes. Remember, you guys ever heard that before? I don't want to be a landlord. I want to fix leaky pipes. Now becoming a landlord is looking more enticing. Make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm taking a screenshot of this because this chart that you just put up there, if you guys are interested really in finding your inventory, Remind, if you have that, then that means that your target for looking for listings is people that purchased in 2014, 2015, and 2016, because there's equity there.
Yeah.
The people that I have in my pipe from doing my home sellers workshop, they all have equity. So they don't care about listing, because they're going to take a good amount of that money and put it towards a down payment on what they got that's new, which will also bring down their interest rate. So they're not even going to be paying the higher interest rates. They're going to get locked in at 5 or 4, which will be already closer to what they already was into. So if you're matching what they were into previously, them buying and selling is not going to make too much difference.
Yeah.
So we don't focus on whoever purchased in 2020, 2021, or 2022. We go after the people that purchased 5 or 6 years ago.
Exactly.
That's something interesting too, what you said, Belinda, that buying the rates down. Not a lot of people are talking about that.
Yeah.
I feel like in this market, we have a lot of new agents, and now is the time that we have to work, right? And if we want to, the houses are out there, we just have to go get it. There's just a lot of new people that don't think that you have to put in the work. A lot of agents came in 2020 and they just think that, it just happens like that. But we keep talking about why we can't do this stuff. Maybe we should focus on the ways that we can get the work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think that we have to ask ourselves, when let's say you have 3%, in your mortgage, when do you make money? Do you make money when you sell, or do you make money when you buy? I think that's also another question we have to ask ourselves, because if you have a very good rate and then you sell, how much your equity will go to the next house, so it's good to ask ourselves that.
Yeah.
True, but just like I said, in Remind, you can see what the person's interest rate was when they purchased back in 2016 and 2014 and 2015. You can see that information. So if it's true that the average person moves every 5 to 7 or 10 years, then that's our target, because for one, they may not have did the upgrades in their house, and they want something new. You got 50 million home shows streaming on TV now. So sure, they want something new. They keep seeing these bright white kitchens, and they keep seeing, all these granite countertops. They want something new, and they don't want to do the work themselves. So it's there. Those people are there. And those people are ready. And those people are not going to be moved by the interest rates if they can buy down and still end up with the same mortgage or better. And just as we're educating the people, you really do have to remind those that we're saying refinance, that when you refinance, if they are concerned about their credit score, refinancing is still closing a loan. Their score will drop. Because if someone is score conscious and you don't tell them that part, they're going to be very upset with you. Refinancing is still doing a brand new loan.
Yeah, very true.
It's canceling out the old and bringing in the new.
Mhm.
Yeah. So one of our agents here needs a piece of advice or maybe a little bit of a blueprint. They want to buy a house in Pennsylvania because the cost of living is lower. And their spouse wants to sell the house, but she wants to keep the house because they have a 2% interest rate. So obviously, the payment's got to be rather low, and they can probably cash in pretty good on a monthly basis. What talking points or what argument would you make to try to get your spouse to keep the house versus selling it, even though they don't need the money to buy the other house? What it appears from what I understand.
I guess it depends on the county that you're in. I wouldn't keep it.
You would sell it?
Yeah,
What's your
because
thought process behind selling it?
I would first sit down. I mean, I'm saying right off out of the bat, I would sell it, but I would sit down and see how much, if they do destroy the house, how much is that gonna cost me? Is it gonna cost me more than the rent that I'm going to get for 12 months? Because 12 months, we might think it's a lot, but it's not.
Mhm.
And if they're going to destroy the house, is it gonna cost me more? Everything is expensive now. Sheetrock is a lot of money to renovate it. And then people are still playing pookie with the rent. So how long is it gonna take you to kick them out if you do decide to sell in a year and you can't get them out?
Yeah.
Because the courts are still backed up. I mean, in Essex County is backed up 18,000 cases.
Yeah, I experienced that firsthand.
You
Horrible.
can also try to give them like the first right of buying a property.
Mhm.
Do a lot of you guys done that?
Give your tenant the first right of refusal or first option to buy?
Giving them that. Like, listen, I'm planning to sell the house. I just want to give you the chance to see if you want to buy it or not. But at least I'm letting them know that the house will be put up for sale.
A lease
Well,
option.
some people, once they know that, they start destroying everything.
That's terrible. That's really horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it is the truth.
it's, yeah.
Listen, people don't take care of their own house most times, let alone someone else's. But question I have for you, Ivania, so where would you stick your money if you were to sell this house and you walk away with a substantial amount of money? What would you do with that money? Because money tends to act like butter. It just slowly melts if you don't
So
have
if
much
you're,
up
if you're
to it.
moving to PA, and then why not buy another house and rent it there? I mean, from PA to New Jersey might not seem like a long drive, but it is. So why not buy something closer to where you're going to live, to where you can be on top of it?
Okay, so you're saying basically reinvest the money into real estate, but closer to where you're going to be living.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless you're gonna hire a property management, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
With the way that things are and all the horror stories that I keep hearing, I right now it's a good time to sell. There's lines outside of the homes.
Yeah, that's very true. How often do you see that over the course of real estate history? I remember doing open houses where it's you and another agent looking at each other playing cards all day until 4 o'clock comes around and nobody showed up.
Yep.
Now that
Where did these
You
days
gotta eat all
go?
the cookies yourself.
Where did these days go?
How
Yeah.
many, how many,
go?
Well,
How
right now you're
many-
getting lines because the weather's nice, but if it was colder, I don't think there'll be lines like that outside.
yeah,
Because a couple of weeks ago, you were still showing houses. There were still a lot of people saying I had an open house and nobody's showing up.
sure. I mean, how much more of a top signal do you need, right? Because we'll look back 5 years from now and be like, oh man, we should have sold. That was a top signal. Like, why didn't I pay attention to it, right? Hindsight is 2020. But I guess you're right. How much more of a red flag do we all need to see it's a good time to sell? But the only way I would say it's good to sell is if you have a better opportunity. If you don't have a better opportunity, what are you going to do with the money? If it's sitting in your bank account, you're not going to be as frugal as you normally are. You're going to spend a little more. It's just in human nature. So I
Yes.
think if you've got a way to 1031 exchange it into something else, then go for it.
Even if you rented at $3,000 times 12, that's only 36,000. If your tenants destroy your house, 36,000 is not even gonna get it fixed.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Louis, I was just going to say that this last weekend on Saturday, I brought my client to see a home in Branchburg. That's off of Route 22.
Yeah, that's flood.
I mean,
It's a flood zone.
yeah, and there was when we got there, and I got there, on time around 1 o'clock. Open house was going to start at 1:30, and we were 20 people on the line.
That's nice.
And when I was trying to find the comps for this home, it was so challenging because there's nothing in the market. So we were using last year's comp. We were looking at June of last year, April of last year, and that's when the market was really high. And those comps are comparable to what it is right now. So it just goes to tell you that the market is really crazy, and I cannot imagine. Well, we never made an offer because we sat down and we were like, okay, my client will buy this home above asking because there is going to be a bidding war. And then on top of that, the interest rate is high. That's a double whammy there. So you wonder whether whoever buys that home, will they get their money back? I mean, whether it's a primary residence or for investment, really, it's ridiculously high. The comps you are looking at was, and I have it here, the closest was, the house was listed for $599, but the same comp, the houses were going for $675. So it's almost $70, $80,000 above asking.
It's funny. It's funny how things change in real estate so quickly, because it was only about a week or two ago that we were talking about declining values and appraisals coming in short. And now we're talking again about 80 people in line at an open house and 20 offers. So
2 of them were over asking cash.
yeah, look at that, guys. I mean, it is weird. I mean, if I ever seen a weirder, the 2008 market was really, really easy to figure out, which means that you knew why there was a bubble because there was too much easy money, right? And we knew why there was a crash because people weren't paying their mortgage, right? So it was very transparent. This market, you can't make heads or tails of it. Like, do we have a crash because the interest rates are up, but our job market's still strong, but the stock market's down, but now it's already recovered? Like, what? Does anybody, can anyone make any type of predictions in this market? I mean, there's no inventory, but there's high interest rates. I don't know.
Do you recall in 2008 if iBuyers and big corporations, developers were buying as much as they are now?
They were not. Real estate was toxic. Nobody wanted anything to do with real estate in 2008. It was kind of like, it was kind of like almost the black sheep. Anyone holding on to real estate assets was looked upon as being almost like in a potential bankruptcy situation. So 2008 to 2010 really gave like single mom and pop investors an opportunity to really cash in. Even, I would say that even longer than that, probably into like 2012 and 2014, there were like a lot of opportunities in the market still. So much backlog of foreclosures. It really did take that long to clear it all out, especially in the northern region like New York and New Jersey. We're seeing foreclosures that people were living in their homes for 10 years without paying mortgages. It was just a long time.
Yeah, I don't know because I wasn't in that, didn't pay much attention, but now I'm noticing from emails I'm getting weekly, if not daily, we have $20 million, contact me at any home at market value or less, we will buy it sight unseen, just give us so we're dealing with corporate America that doesn't want to be in the volatility of the market, in my opinion. They want to go into real estate. And they realize that there's more of a stabilization because the real estate's slower than the stock market, and they can somebody said it earlier, they're going to create a rental monopoly and just have the corner on the market. So I think that that's probably a difference between 2008 and now. And the people that are working at a Florida salary, times two people in the family contributing, they can't keep up with a $20 million corporation that just says, find me something and I'll buy it. They don't have to buy it at the bottom. They just buy it to dominate.
Yeah. I mean, between that and a rising cost of it to just in general cost to live,
Yeah.
people can actually continue to, pay these prices on homes. There is a day of reckoning coming, I believe, because nothing goes up in a straight line forever. And I feel like we prolonged our crash for a long time, because think about it, right? Every 8 to 10 years, we usually have a crash or a reset. It's usually what we get. So from 2008, our crash reset was due sometime around 2016 to 2020, because even though 2008 was a really hard one, it usually lasts a little bit longer. So even if it would have happened around 2020, well, what happened in 2020? We had the pandemic, which was the black swan event that we were all waiting for. And you would have thought that real estate prices were going to crash, right? That's what initially anyone would have thought, but we didn't, because the government pumped trillions of dollars of money into the market. So what that does is that money finds a home, it finds a place. And where it usually ends up is in real estate and other assets such as stocks and things like that. So that propped up the market. And then coupled with the fact that there was already a lack of inventory prior to the pandemic, you lock everybody up for a year and don't let people show homes, or most sellers don't want to sell because they're scared to get sick, creates even more of demand. And you just put off that crash that we were supposed to have in 2020. So we really haven't had a crash or a reset in real estate, if you want to do your numbers, since 2008. What is that, like 15 years? Right? And the longer you wait to get that reset, or the longer you wait to get that normality in the market, the harder it's going to be, in my opinion. I mean, you just look at anything in life, the longer you prolong something, usually the harder it is, right? So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that's something that's going to be inevitable, or do you think that we're just going to consistently just hover around these areas?
Do your part, let God spread the leaven.
Say that again, Belinda. I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
I said, do your part, let God spread the leaven.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the hyper locality of it, Lewis, is going to determine that. What's true in Florida is not going to be true in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It's just, so it's not a national thing. It's very regional. At states that are being moved into, states that are being exited, and the demand here is so high because of 950 to 1,000 people a day coming in. But what we're seeing now is, what I see in this area, Lakewood Ranch, I'm afraid is going to get ruined in the next 10 years, because that very exclusive single family dwelling is now just peppered with high density housing, all shapes and sizes. So I'm afraid that you're going to see, it's going to probably a decade away, but you're going to have a total different feel in Lakewood Ranch.
Yeah.
And they're doing the same thing in Welland Park and North Riverland. So
Commercialized big time. Yeah, very true. Well, anything we come up with is obviously just our own opinions and a guess of what can happen, because the market it's like a ever changing and evolving organism that we can't make sense of. So all we can do is leave no stone unturned. Like Chris said, he's been trying every single aspect, from old school prospecting and door knocking and delivering flyers to going to sheriff sales and everything in between. So in this market, guys, if you're looking for inventory for your clients, leave no stone unturned. And if you're trying to predict the market, don't spend too much time on that and spending your energy on that, because no one can ever predict that. I believe the best thing you could do is roll with the punches and just try to figure out what's working for you right now at this moment, and just double down on that, like we've said in the past, and just try to find people who are succeeding and see what they're doing, see what it is that's working for them, because obviously we can always learn. We're always learning. If we think we know it all, that's our first mistake, because the more you learn, or the wiser you get, the more you realize that you don't know anything. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to call today's meeting. It was a good one today, guys. Thank you for being here. I appreciate everybody on the call, and we'll pick up again next Monday. John, can I have you take us out today with a prayer? You want to mind?
Sure.
Thank you, my brother.
Okay, let's quiet our hearts. Lord, we thank you for your goodness to us. We thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed in our lives. Thank you because you have given us a gift of life, that we can be here together and brainstorm and come up with new ways on how to be able to sustain our business in these difficult days. So, Father, we commit the rest of the week into your hands. We pray that you'll continue watching over each one of us. We pray that you're going to surround us with your love and remind us of your presence each single day. We love you and we glorify your name. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
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 Amen. Have a good week, everybody.
Have a good week.
Yeah.